Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to finally get ripped and reveal your abs, have a low body fat percentage, no matter what diet you follow. So essentially, this video is a gold mine of fat loss tips that are cranked into as short of an amount of time as I can fit them. So it's going to be very complex, so I recommend going through it slow and trying to follow the narrative I'm putting out here. But besides that, enjoy all these tools to accelerate your fat loss and get ripped as quick as possible. So you'll probably know a bit about some of the topics I'm going to get into here, but I guarantee you most of them are going to be ideas that are probably new to you. So here are the topics that I'm going to discuss in this video. We got cardio, fasting, intermittent fasting, insulin management, avoiding kryptonite, metabolic speed, appetite suppressing foods, and supplements. So I'm going to go through all these topics in as quick an amount of time as I can. So cardio, a lot of people are already familiar with cardio, and that's the basic recommendation most people will throw at you. Oh, just do more cardio, right? Here's the best way to actually get the most effect out of cardio. It's always going to be low intensity, steady state cardio if you can do a large amount of it. Something to get your heart rate moderately up so that you're not going to be using just the stored carb energy in your muscles, and that your body will be more likely to tap into fat stores for use of that duration of cardio. Again, that's LISS cardio, low intensity, steady state. It's even better if you combine it in the fasted state, because if you're not somebody who's eating a low carbohydrate diet, your body isn't going to be in fat burning mode all the time. So doing your cardio in the fasted state is basically a way to amplify the effects. Now, the fasted state itself. If you do intermittent fasting or regular prolonged fasting, you'll probably know a little bit about the fat burning effects coming from them. Essentially, intermittent fasting allows your body to tap into fat as a fuel source quicker, and it will also speed up your metabolic rate due to cramming all your eating into a smaller window of time. Basically, this is forcing your metabolism to work harder in the day when you're not eating. So there's many ways you can set up your fasting regimen. It could be one meal a day, it could be a 4-hour eating window. At the end of the day, anything over 6 hours is going to put you in the fasted state, but you're not going to get any fat burn effect unless you do it for longer than 12 hours at least. Anywhere from 12 to 18 hours is a good routine that will amplify fat burning. Now, what about prolonged fasting, right? The big longer than a day fasting, okay? This is some stuff that is definitely going to shred you up, okay? And the way that it actually works is that it puts your body into deep ketosis, where basically after the first day or 2 days, what's going to happen is your body's going to switch entirely to using fat for fuel. Now, this doesn't happen right away, and if you're somebody who's already on a keto diet, that's going to be beneficial for you, and it's probably an option that's more appealing to you because you'll be able to get into the deep ketogenic state quicker than somebody who's coming from a carb metabolism, because the way that your body gets permission to enter fat burning state in ketosis is using up your liver glycogen, which is your backup reserve carb fuel source, or tank is a better word. So essentially, prolonged fasting is a huge fat loss tool, and just to give you some peace of mind here, you're at less risk of losing your muscle if you are in a deeper ketogenic state, because the ketones themselves are an indication to your body that we're not using protein as fuel here. So they're not directly anti-catabolic, but they definitely work to prevent your body from tapping into protein. So as long as you're not giving your body little snacks here and there and keeping the calories like not to zero and just having little bits here and there, your body will be in ketosis and you'll have deep fat burn. And this is why it's becoming so popular nowadays for people to just fast for a week and then lose 30 pounds in that week. So definitely do some more research on prolonged fasting if that's the measure you're going to take this to. Now, insulin management. This is one that nobody really talks about, except for me probably. So insulin management, whether you're doing a carbohydrate-based diet or a no carbohydrate-based diet, insulin management is going to be key for managing your appetite. So the way this actually plays out in a practical level is if you were to have a big fruit smoothie in the morning, what's going to happen is your blood sugar is going to jack up like mad, and your insulin is going to jack up as a response to all that sugar, because it has to basically distribute that sugar appropriately in your body and all the other nutrients in whatever is in your smoothie. So that's the essential problem for type 1 diabetics, is that they don't have the ability to produce that insulin, and basically they'll die if they don't have that insulin, because if their blood sugar drops too much, they'll essentially be dead, and they need the insulin to distribute it properly. So what's going to happen if you have better insulin management? Well, not only is your appetite going to be more maintainable, right? But you're going to probably feel better energy levels and have a better ability to do more cardio activities. It's an exponential variable to pick here with the insulin management, because if you're allowing your energy levels to be more sustainable, because you're not skyrocketing your blood sugar intake in the morning, the whole day is going to be easier for you. You'll be able to do other fat burning techniques. So how do you actually manage your insulin? Well, carbs are always going to be the biggest source of insulin, along with protein as the second, highest raiser of insulin. But the way that I always explain it for people who are on carbohydrate-based diets is, obviously, don't jack up all your carbs at one meal. That's a misconception that a lot of people will always say, oh, a calorie is a calorie. A calorie is a calorie, but the ease of your diet in and of itself will be influenced by your insulin levels. And this is often why people are talking about the ketogenic diet so much, because it stabilizes the insulin and blood sugar. You can check out the thousands of other videos on keto I have on my page, well, hundreds, and I'll have plenty of explanations there. So if you're doing a keto approach, your insulin's already going to be maintained, and that's ultimately why it has a little bit of an edge when it comes to certain situations in fat burning. But for somebody on a carbohydrate-based diet, I always say either cut the carbs out completely or give yourself enough. And if you're giving yourself, a large amount of carbs, because that's how you like to diet, just make sure you're managing the insulin spikes, because if you have only 300 carbs in a day, right, and you have 200 of them in the morning, you are going to be craving those carbs by nighttime. And you want to evenly space out your carb portions in the day, because the insulin fluctuations will mess with your hunger and they'll mess with your energy levels. So overall, also, when I talk about avoiding kryptonite, this is going to tie into the insulin management. So let's move on to avoiding kryptonite. What I mean by kryptonite are ingredients in foods, which you can check on the label basically, that could either mess with fat loss or can make you hungrier. So, or they can mess with you mentally in a bunch of other ways that are bad for your health. But as far as the context of fat burning, kryptonite is what I'm mentioning here. So when we're talking about insulin management and kryptonite, so I had previously mentioned that example, if you have a big fruit smoothie in the morning, or most of your carbs in the day, if you diet with carbs, that'll jack up your blood sugar and your blood insulin. And eventually when that crashes, you'll be hungry and tired, etc., and angry. Now, kryptonite, for example, when I'm saying the fruit smoothie example, fruits are high in a sugar called fructose. Fructose is the type of sugar you do not want to jack up like mad, because it's the most likely to lead to pre-diabetes, diabetes, and oxidative stress. Essentially, fructose gets digested in your liver before it goes anywhere else. And that can cause a lot of problems for not only your liver, but your blood sugar levels in general. Even though it's not the highest glycemic sugar, so the most dense in sugar, it is the most problematic for your body to handle. And this is why, even though it's not a kryptonite in and of itself, because it's just a form of sugar, what it's going to do is have dramatic ramifications on your hunger, and it's also the most addictive type of sugar. It's going to get you hungrier in the day. So the fruit smoothie in the morning is actually worse for you and essentially your risk of diabetes than a Snickers bar in the morning, or just pure sugar. Or sorry, not pure sugar, pure glucose sources of sugar, or dextrose or something like that. So avoid foods that are going to have those kryptonite ingredients. The only actual real compound that is kryptonite at a practical level, I would say, would be fructose. But the actual kryptonites are going to be things like MSG, high fructose corn syrup, and mold toxins. There's also other forms of kryptonite, like certain lectins, wheat germ, agglutinin, like WGA, and of course there's other pesticides. But the only ones that are going to affect your fat loss type of kryptonite are going to be the MSG, high fructose corn syrup, and mold toxins and pesticides. So basically, MSG, what is that? You've probably heard about it. You probably are vaguely aware of trying to avoid it. MSG, monosodium glutamate, is an excitatory neurotoxin. So basically what that does is when you eat it, it tricks you into thinking that food is more exciting than it actually is. It makes you think food is better than it is. So if I give you, expired food and I have MSG chalked in it, you probably won't notice the difference, or you'll at least be addicted to it. And this also ties into how, a calorie isn't just a calorie, or all that matters is your macros and calorie intake in the day. Because essentially, if you get all your calories from, the caloric deficit, but they're all from foods containing little bits of MSG, you will go to bed hungry and angry, and it'll mess with you. MSG also makes it harder for you to derive satisfaction from other foods that don't contain it. So this is why always look on the back for monosodium glutamate, MSG, don't get like Cheese Whiz and stuff, get real food. And sometimes MSG is masked by yeast extractives or spice extractives. And in general, try to avoid things that say spice extractives or spice extract, okay? And MSG, avoid those. High fructose corn syrup. This ties in very much with the fructose example of the fruit smoothie, except this is now a processed concentrated syrup that will, again, jack up your blood sugars. And essentially what it does is it gives you a very rewarding sugar spike. So this is not something that's naturally occurring like fructose is, but it's equally problematic. So Coca-Cola, right? You could drink Coca-Cola all day long, and if your calories are in check, you'll lose weight. But you probably won't lose as much weight as you would have if you didn't have it from all high fructose corn syrup all day. And additionally, you will have a much easier time mentally because your appetite will not be messed with. Now, that's all I'm going to say on the high fructose corn syrup. You can do plenty of other research on that. Mycotoxins, pesticides. These are mold toxins and pesticides used in procuring plant products, grains, etc. With mold toxins, essentially some of these foods, if they're produced and they have a large shelf life, or if they're exposed to moisture in processing, are going to be problematic for your appetite, and they'll be bad for your gut bacteria. And messing with your gut bacteria is going to influence your appetite, absolutely. But at the end of the day, stick to avoiding, the fruits that are in the big bags. Well, that's a bit of a stretch because those foods are always exposed to more moisture and it's easier to buy them in bulk. But you really shouldn't be going nuts on your fruits every day anyways, because it can mess with your sugars and, it can give you a large amount of blood sugar fluctuations. So keep everything in moderation, right? Now, with mycotoxins, pesticides, not in moderation at all. Keep them out of the picture and try to get your fruits and grain products from sources that you know are reliable. Now, metabolic speed. This ties into calorie counting because, of course, everybody knows calorie counting is big for actual weight loss, and it's one of the main drivers of fat loss. But your metabolic speed is more important. This is also why I like to hit out against the whole calories are all that matter argument, because if you lower your calories, yes, of course, you will lose weight, but your body will downregulate how much weight you're actually losing as a preventative measure from running through all your energy in a day. So essentially, metabolic speed and doing 30 minutes of cardio a day is going to do more for you than getting whatever the equivalent calorie burn is from that cardio and just slicing it off of your caloric intake. So amping up your metabolism by doing more activity is going to essentially result in more fat loss. Even just putting the cardio in for 15 minutes just for the sake of, boosting that metabolic rate will be more impactful, and that's why I made it one of the first tips I threw out here. Now, appetite suppressing foods. This is going to be things that are more satiating. So, of course, fats are more conducive to this. If you can get some grass-fed butters, high quality MCT oils, it'll give your body more energy. And essentially, when I'm talking about appetite suppressing foods, it simultaneously comes with the other side of the coin, which is avoiding foods that are going to make you hungrier. So this draws back to the high sugar and insulin management that you want to be aware of, because think about what starvation means. Okay, I've brought this up in other videos as well, but if you are giving your body food that is nutrient dense and high in energy content, you will be filled. And fats are the most energy dense macronutrient. So it's good to fit them in to slow the absorption of blood sugars and also to keep you full. So when we're talking about starvation and hunger and appetite, your body will be hungry if it's not getting enough energy and nutrients. So the more nutritious food and the cleaner the food is that you get, the more organically sourced, free of pesticides, following all these other little recommendations I have, the more you will be satisfied. Think about starvation. If people are hungry all day long, it's because they're jacking up their sugars, their insulin, and their body is not full. If it was full, they wouldn't be hungry. This is why, example, when people were fasting all day long, as I mentioned earlier, their appetite is much more manageable after the second or third day of fasting because their body is tapping into a very energy dense fuel source, being their body's stored fat. So overall, it's remarkable that the people who are fasting outright, eating nothing, have minimal appetite. Meanwhile, the people who are eating all day long, jacking up their sugars, are the most hungry, because the more you're not feeding your body quality nutrition, the more it's going to crave it. And the more essentially that you give your body energy dense foods, nutrient dense foods, the less it will crave due to it actually being fed. So that's all I'm going to say on that one. And we're last over to supplements. Okay, supplements, everybody knows about supplements, fat burners. There's definitely some that you can take advantage of, and I have videos on them. My favorite ones are acetyl L-carnitine, and essentially you can use some stimulants like caffeine, and you can get your hands on a fat burner with caffeine and other stimulants in place. This is not entirely necessary, and it can burn you out, but if it's a tool to help you get better performance, that will be impactful for you. Acetyl L-carnitine basically helps your body to use fat. I prefer the acetyl form because it can allow mental boosts of clarity as well at the same time, but even regular L-carnitine works in that way, and it can milk out extra fat loss from cardio and low intensity activity you're doing. Overall, these are the tips that will work regardless of diet. Okay, of course there's the amount of extra work you can put in, like cardio, fasting, things like that, but on a practical level, watching out for your too rapid of a insulin and blood sugar spike, too much of foods with additives like MSG in them. Those things are going to be more important, and directing your energy towards more worthwhile pursuits like speeding up your metabolic rate rather than just worrying about calories overall will be much more impactful for you. So this video should give you plenty of answers. If you like them, go to my other videos, subscribe to me, like the video right now. Thanks again for watching. Anthony Romano. Peace.